Welcome back, everyone. In today's video we're going to be drawing a hummingbird, and I thought it might be fun to not use any time lapse so you can see the speed that I usually draw with and the kinds of marks that I make. So I started with a circle and an oval, and now I'm just going to connect them with these two slightly curved lines. Now I'm working on the tail feather. That's just again a slightly curved line and almost to a point. You can't see much of the feet, so I'm just going to make a little indication. And you'll see that the head of the hummingbird is quite pointed with that really narrow beak, almost straw-like. And with the side of my pencil here, I'll just rough in a flower. A lot of people ask me why I hold the pencil so far back, and that's actually for your benefit. When I'm drawing regularly, I do hold it much closer to the tip of the pencil, but I just figured you didn't want to see my hand the whole time. You'd rather see the drawing, so that's what that's all about. That's not my regular grip. So I just have a little flower roughed in there. We'll get back to the hummingbird. Now it's a circle for the eye, and I will darken the outside of the circle. I want to try to show you a bunch of different marks that you can make with dark and light, with long lines and short lines, with thick lines and thin lines. When you vary the kind of marks that you make, it tends to give your drawing more of a dynamic feel, more personality, I think I would say. So I'm just lightly coloring in that eye now. I'll go back into it a little bit later. Again, this is real-time drawing. There's a little dark patch just beside the eye. And I'm going to start outlining the top of the head, taking my time here and using those guides, but not being really strict to follow them, just using them as a guide. Make those lines a little bit bumpy to indicate feathers. And the same thing on the other side. My idea for the hummingbird is to have the wings blurred out, and we're going to do that later, toward the end, I think, and just have a really fun little technique to blur out those wings. But in the meantime, I'm just going to keep switching my grip on my pencil. Here you see I'm using the side of my pencil, not the tip, and creating different kinds of marks from very thin lines to thicker lines. I'm just sort of roughing in chaotically, you might say, little patterns to indicate feathers. And just working my way around the head. And now I'll go to the beak and just outline that beak using my guideline there. I suppose I could have used a ruler for this part. It's probably the only straight edge in the whole image. I'm using a reference image, by the way. I'm not drawing this out of my imagination. I just have a reference image off to the side. And there's some little dots here underneath the mouth. And just put those in. This whole drawing, you'll see, takes about 9 minutes. And there's a real difference between spending 9 minutes on a drawing and spending half an hour on a drawing. And that's just to do with the level of detail that you want to put into it. And of course, that's a personal choice. It's not the case that the more detail, the better the drawing. Sometimes when you add too much detail, you sort of lose that spontaneity and that dynamic nature that you would get from doing a drawing with different kinds of marks, different maybe energetic marks. I'm just working my way around the body here, and I'm lightly putting in some feathers. Notice that there's no need to draw every feather with this sort of loose realism, I guess you could call it. If you were drawing hyper-realism, you do have to draw every feather, and the goal there would not to show any personality with your mark making, but rather to hide your personality and to try to replicate the drawing as much of like a picture as possible. So there's different kinds of realism, sort of this looser style, and then just regular realism. There's hyper-realism, photorealism, of course. And perhaps I'll get into a video with the differences of those. So now I'm just switching to the side of my pencil, and I'm going to very, very lightly color in the shape of the wing, and then add another shape of the same wing. Let's sort of blur it out. I'm going light at first, and then in just a moment I will use my finger to smudge. Generally, it is not recommended to use your finger when you're smudging or smearing or blending. And the reason is that you have oils in your finger, and those oils can discolor your paper over time. Also, you don't want graphite in your finger and leading to any possible infections if you had small cuts. But this is a very old technique. I really should be using blending stumps or smudge sticks, or even a cotton swab or a Q-tip would work well for blending. But this is just on printer paper, and it's just for demonstration purposes, so I did that smudge. But you can see, because we want to give the appearance that the wings are in motion, we're not going to add the same level of detail, and because you wouldn't see the same level of detail if the wings were moving. And that contrast between the lack of detail in the wings and the with a lot of detail, or at least sharper detail in the body, that creates a nice balance between the part of the hummingbird that is stationary and the part that is in motion. I'm just coloring the rest of the flower here, and then coming back in just for some touch-ups. But I think this is probably enough that you get the idea. And notice that I'm using very, very soft edges, soft lines for the wings, and then harder edges, thinner lines, and pressing down harder for the parts that are stationary. You can manipulate your different parts of your drawing with your level of detail to show motion this way. It's a nice trick if you're drawing cars in motion with parked cars in the same scene. And as I'm just finishing up here, I'd like to say thank you all very much for following along with this how to draw video. I hope your hummingbirds come out just as well as you like them. I do have a how to draw book coming out in August, and it's suitable for 10 plus. So it's the same kind of level as my videos here on social media. If you're interested in that, I do have links to all the different bookstores that book will come out. And I'm going to leave it at that. Thank you all very much for all your support. Drop me a comment. Let me know what you'd like to see next. And that's going to be it. See you in the next one.